On today's episode of Dollars and Cents, Jeremy and Jeff are sitting in, Jeff in front of the camera this time around. We're going to talk all about the Super Bowl. We're going to get into details about Super Bowl commercials, return on investment, gambling, some interesting factoids. We're going to be quizzing each other back and forth. And right about now, we're going to go ahead and just jump on into the episode. It's going to be a fun one. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Dollars and Cents, HAPO Community Credit Union's Financial Literacy Podcast. Today, you may notice we have a slightly different vibe on the podcast, as we are all kind of excited for the upcoming Super Bowl matchup. I think we could probably all be a little bit more excited if it was potentially two different teams, Agreed. Given the jerseys sitting around the table. But we've got coming up the Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, most people are probably thinking to themselves, what does that have to do with financial literacy? The Super Bowl is in and of itself a singular event that brings a massive economic impact across the table. And so today we're going to be talking about the economics of the Super Bowl. Now, we brought in Jeremy, who you guys have seen before. We've talked technology with, and he is still the Vice President of Marketing here at HAPO Community Credit Union. And the new face over there wearing the no longer Barkley jersey from the Giants is Jeff, our producer.
This is actually a Singletary jersey?
It is now. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. What makes you two eligible to be our Super Bowl commentators today?
Eligible?
Eligible.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. I don't know if we're eligible necessarily. We watch a lot of football.
Yeah, football fans. I guess too. You know, when you talk about economic impact, you look at those things, and that's stuff that I'm always looking at from my desk. Much smaller scale, I would say, than the Super Bowl, but looking at the ROI, where to put stuff, where to invest, where you're going to get the biggest impact. So,
well, and of course, being in marketing, we get the opportunity to place commercials out there, and I'm sure that most people are aware that you get your local commercials in the middle of the Super Bowl because all local television stations have their opportunity to place their ads for local. You're not, and then those local companies aren't stuck spending the ridiculous price tag that comes along with airing a national Super Bowl commercial, which is going to bring me to my first question. We're going to play a little trivia today as we go through things. Going to go multiple choice with this one. How much is a 30-second Super Bowl ad for the 2025 Super Bowl costing? A, $5 million for 30 seconds. B, $6.5 million. C, $8 million, or D, $10 million for 30 seconds worth of advertising?
I'm going to go C.
$8 million, Jeff, yeah. Locking in?
Yeah, I'm with C. I'm close to D, but C.
The answer is C. It is $8+ million is the number. Interesting factoid that I found looking this one up. Apparently, the demand for Super Bowl commercials is so high that they filled every single one of their spots before the end of November.
That's crazy.
These are companies that have committed to running their advertisement during the Super Bowl, knowing that they are dropping $8+ million on just the airtime. This does not include the production value of those. Now, we're not running any ads at that level of expense for certain. But here's the question: what do you guys think these companies are getting out of this? What is their return on investment?
I think the biggest thing, you and I actually talked about this before, is brand awareness. You know, there's nothing like necessarily trackable from it, but these brands are so big that I think they just have to be involved in this.
Well, it's one of those things. People recognize and remember at least the best commercials, maybe even some of the worst ones, just because of how memorable they were, good or for bad. And a number of these companies do a pretty good job of being identifiable in those commercials in the long run. So I got a couple of other questions for you guys here. We're going to see if you can identify the company that was affiliated with these particular Super Bowl commercials.
Jeremy's
I will tell you.
me. I just know he's going to beat me in these.
I feel like I'll remember, but maybe not know the company.
Well, we've got a decent number of these. You should remember all of these commercials. We'll start with one of the most well-known. Mean Joe Green. Hey, kid, catch. Oh, we all remember this commercial, right?
You're putting us on the spot hard.
Oh,
you should remember
100%.
this. I don't know. Campbell's?
No.
No idea.
Do you remember the commercial itself, though?
Yeah, I remember a Mean Joe Green commercial.
Yeah, it's one of the classic ones back in the day. Joe's walking through the tunnel, and the kids say, "It ain't so, Joe. Here, catch." Or I don't think it was the "say it ain't so" part, but yeah, he tosses the towel to the kid. And then it cuts to him enjoying a cold Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, our very first one for Hey Kid Catch. This one should be a lot easier. The Super Bowl commercial was called Puppy Love.
Puppy Love.
And it featured a young, I believe it was a golden retriever or a lab, looking up to and running with a very large, very noticeable horse, the Clydesdale.
Oh, yeah.
Shocker if you guys can't get this one, who the company was.
Yeah, Budweiser.
Yeah, I don't know another company that's used the Clydesdale. It's kind of become their iconic, featurette.
Before you mentioned the Clydesdale, I actually remembered that one.
Yep.
I remember the dog.
It's a good, heart-touching commercial, great cinematics and whatnot. Jeff, you could talk to how they put that together.
Yeah.
Again, we'll move on to another pretty easily identifiable one. What's up?
Yeah, that's
Budweiser.
was that is beer company? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Michelob?
Jeremy's already gotten it right.
Oh, what'd you say?
I said Budweiser.
Oh,
Yep.
that was Budweiser.
That's
too?
one of the ones-
Two in a row for Budweiser.
I do feel like some of the, you could probably categorize Super Bowl commercials into, like you said, you talked about there's weird ones, and obviously that's part of the strategy.
Yeah.
We may not think it's, funny or cool, but the fact that it was weird means we're talking about it the next day at work, and we remember it and that brand associated with it.
And there's a number of these where they get tagged and well associated with those. Now, What's Up is not, a branding aspect of Budweiser, but everybody seems to remember that one went with them.
Yep.
Now, there's another set of commercials that they did with some frogs that everybody refers to as the Budweiser frogs. Mm-hmm. So that one I did not put on here because if I asked you the Budweiser frog commercial, that's a pretty big giveaway.
Yeah.
I want to touch on something though. You said something about weird commercials. There was the Kanye West. I don't know if you call it a commercial, honestly, but
it was.
He spent $7 million on the ad spot, recorded it in his car, and it was at night. It was terrible quality, dark, on his phone, and I think it was for a clothing launch. And I think in the first 24 hours, I could be wrong. This number could be wrong, but I think he sold $19 million.
No, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. That comes across correct, and they sold out very quickly. On that. Again, memorable, not great.
Right. Well, and to your point, the media buy was the $8 million we're talking about this year. That doesn't include the production versus Kanye West in his car shoots it for nothing and still turns around and gets a revenue of $19 million in 24 hours.
That's hilarious.
So the ROI on that one is pretty obvious.
Yeah.
That one, he spent maybe 10 minutes of his own time in his car with his iPhone recording himself and then spent the money for the spot. So that's a pretty quick turnaround, tripling, not quite, but getting in there 2.5 times your return in 24 hours. That's a pretty solid ROI.
Yeah.
Some of these other companies, I don't know if Budweiser is getting that level of ROI. We'll get into conversations about food and beverage sales here later. Here's another commercial spot where I'm going to have to word this a little bit differently. What was the first ever Super Bowl ad featuring a talking baby?
Gosh, If I had to guess, I would say the E-Trade ad, but I don't. There could have been one before that.
Jeff, you got another idea?
You and I talked about it.
Yeah,
already,
we did.
So Jeremy's right, isn't he?
It is the E-Trade baby,
Oh, okay.
which is why you can't go again by the title of what they called that particular ad,
Yeah.
100% giveaway. But that one was, if I recall correctly, the first showing of the E-Trade baby. And they have spun that into campaign after campaign. And I have to feel like it's at least partly responsible for the Boss Baby movie series.
I would agree.
Oh, yeah.
All right, now we're going to get into 3 slightly more obscure ones. You will almost all certainly remember Terry Tate, Office Linebacker.
Yes.
This commercial aired in 2003, but who was he advertising for? Terry Tate, Office Linebacker, one of my personal favorites. You can't walk away from a K-22 paper jam.
So I was like 9 then, so it's a little harder for me to remember. I wasn't paying attention to the commercials as much then.
I mean,
I have no idea.
It is a sporting gear company.
Nike?
No,
Reebok.
we're going to go with Reebok on this
okay.
one.
I just guessed.
Yep.
Okay.
Just a guess.
Terry Tate, Office Linebacker, personal favorite of mine. All right. Go with one that Jeff probably has a better chance of answering.
Oh, gosh.
2016. Puppy, Monkey, Baby. It's a difficult one to forget because the animatronic animated Puppy, Monkey, Baby thing was super creepy. And they just kept saying Puppy, Monkey, Baby over and over and over again in the
do I not
commercial
remember this?
itself.
God, we're failing you on this, dude.
2016.
This
That's
listed
not that long.
in my searches, this was in a top 25 of fan favorite Super Bowl commercials. I personally don't know why. I was not a big fan of this commercial, but I can't forget it. It's burned into my brain because of the creepy amalgamation of this Puppy, Monkey, Baby thing.
I cheated, so I used ChatGPT to
All right.
figure out
What is ChatGPT telling you?
It says Mountain Dew Kickstart.
Yep.
Okay.
Mountain Dew.
That's-
Said it was a massive viral success.
It was.
Over
because
1 million YouTube views within 24 hours, and it has since amassed tens of millions of views.
I feel like for me, it echoed back to the Quiznos Pepper Bar commercial with the creepy rat things that we're singing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what those were supposed to be, but I believe that commercial was the reason my wife would no longer go to Quiznos.
That's hilarious. We're going to have to clip some of these ads we're talking about in here.
Oh, yeah.
Just so people can see them.
I got one more, and I will guarantee, because I had no clue. I remember the commercial for certain, but I did not remember who it was advertising for. Cat herders. You've got the old cowboys out riding the range, herding cats, and it's such a good feeling when you get a whole herd of them in.
Yeah.
Do you remember the company associated with the herding of cats?
I remember the ad, but I'm in the same boat.
If I had to guess, for me it'd come down to 2, and they're probably neither of them are probably right. But I would say Bud Light or Doritos.
See, I feel like those are good guesses, but they're not even in the right business sector.
Okay.
This company called EDS, again, I don't know if they have ever put out another Super Bowl commercial or not. In fact, it was one of those when I saw this one come up. This commercial came out in 2000.
EDS.
EDS, Electronic Data Systems. They were an IT outsourcing, consulting, and business process services company founded by Ross Perot in 1962.
Okay.
As far as random information goes, that's as deep as I was willing to go look into this.
Yeah.
But they weren't a consumer-facing company. They were a business-to-business sales company doing IT work for people. Again, one of the more memorable commercials. I would never have come up with that answer myself.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
I have some random little things to interject with.
Okay, what do you got?
So these numbers could be wrong, but it says many brands see a 20 to 40% increase in sales immediately after their Super Bowl ad airs. And then it says some companies like avocados from Mexico report sales spikes of up to 60% post Super Bowl.
Now, I'm curious how much of their spike in sales also happens before Super Bowl as people are preparing for 7-layer dip.
Well, that leads me to another random fact here.
Okay.
Is avocado sales surge. More than 100 million pounds of avocados are consumed during the Super Bowl.
That's great.
With guacamole sales peaking.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't. The numbers you were talking about with the increase after the Super Bowl in their sales doesn't surprise me. When, I mean, over 123 million watch.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the number of eyes on these ads is insane.
That'll take me to another interesting trivia fact. Of those 123 to 125 million viewers, how many people watching the Super Bowl are watching purely for the ads?
Huh.
This is actually a stat that went out. They did some surveys to find out how many people believe that the advertisements were the number one most important aspect of watching the Super Bowl for them. Probably didn't care about the teams or the sport. Literally just, I'm going to a Super Bowl party because I got invited, and I'm going with the rest of my friends and family, and we've got Super Bowl ads. The answer, 20% of people watching the Super Bowl, 25 million people, only watch it for the ads.
I was
I'm
going
not
to guess
surprised.
under 10, but so that's shocking.
Dude, I was gonna guess 50%. Because you think about a Super Bowl party, and
That's only because we're watching teams that you're assuming people don't care about the team.
Yeah.
They still love football.
Yeah.
One last good trivia question that I think will be a difficult one. There was a commercial that was put out by a car company. And it was a young boy dressed up as Darth Vader trying to use the Force. And if I recall correctly, he uses the Force and the hatchback of this vehicle opens up. And the kid is shocked and 100% delighted.
Yeah.
What was the vehicle or the maker of the vehicle for that commercial?
Do you remember?
I don't remember. I would have guessed Hyundai.
Can
I ask, is it a foreign car company?
It is a foreign car company.
I'm going to go Kia.
It is not. Dang. The options in here, I instead of giving you the multiple choice, because I feel like this is a little bit of a giveaway, A, Ford Mustang, B, Volkswagen Passat, C, Toyota Camry, D, Nissan Altima.
Volkswagen was my next guess.
Volkswagen is the answer. The Volkswagen Passat commercial of the young boy opening the hatchback with the Force.
I remember
Isn't
that.
the dad
ad.
the one opening it with the key?
Correct.
and-
From inside the house, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Nice picturesque window looking out.
Yeah.
I've also got one last one. Of these Super Bowl commercials, which one is often considered the greatest of all time? Apple's 1984, which aired in 1984, announcing, if I recall correctly, the launch of the Macintosh.
Yeah.
Pepsi's The Joy of Pepsi with Britney Spears.
Okay.
Doritos' Crash the Super Bowl, or Budweiser's What's Up?
So which one was...
The regularly considered one of, if not the greatest Super Bowl ad of all time.
I'd go the Apple 1984.
That is the correct answer, and it is regularly flipping back and forth with the Joe Green commercial on whether or not those are the top two.
I personally think the What's Up ad is the best.
It is one of the most memorable ads for me.
Very true.
That
one, because that one even got parodied in movies.
Oh, yeah.
I believe it wasn't Scream, but it was another scary movie. Which who produced that one?
When the Wayans brothers.
Yeah, it was the Wayans brothers that produced that one, where they actually did have Ghostface doing the What's Up with
That's hilarious. I remember that.
It was so memorable because it was so ridiculous. Like, it had zero to do with Budweiser.
Yeah.
It was just these idiot friends calling each other on the old landline.
I kind of wonder how many people received that phone call from their friends over the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Didn't one of them walk in to the house and the guy was sitting in there on one of the phones and he grabs the other phone and chimes in?
That does sound correct.
Yeah.
All right, we were talking about food and beverages purchases, avocados specifically. Let's move on and talk about the increase in sales of items as Super Bowl comes up. Obviously, Super Bowl parties running rampant throughout the United States at the moment. Random factoid, which is not one of my questions here. Estimated spending during 2024 by Americans on Super Bowl related purchases, $17.3 billion.
Is there another day that drives that much consumer
As far
dollars?
as that level of purchasing, I'm not sure. I would guesstimate that at least the holiday season, Christmas is going to push.
I feel like
more.
that's the only one.
But
maybe
the only other place that I could think of would be maybe like if you wanted to call it an event would be Black Friday. With just a massive amount of spending happening there. But as far as like an actual event, I mean maybe Taylor Swift coming into town, merchandise purchasing could be.
Yeah, and they're hitting that in the Super Bowl. Both of those, Taylor Swift and the Super Bowl.
Oh, I know. Now, the better question of this part, $17.3 billion, what percentage of that number goes to food and beverage purchases?
Oh, I bet it's...
I'd say half.
I'd say 70%.
So we've got A, 50%, B, 65%, C, 80%, or D, 90%.
I'm going to go
65. Then.
65, yeah.
You guys are both undershooting. The answer is 80% of that going to food and beverage purchases.
It was a little closer to my 70, so I went with it. But yeah, that's crazy.
And of the following, what do you believe is the most popular Super Bowl party food?
Food?
Chicken wings, nachos, pizza, or all of the above.
Those have all got to be in the top.
Those are usually at my Super Bowl parties. All those.
Yeah, I would have gone with wings as a default. But chips and dip is always going to be a thing.
I've got the answer of all of the above, but I do believe that chicken wings is actually top of that list.
Okay.
I believe somewhere around here I have, or at least had a stat. Jeff, you've got a computer in front of you. Go ahead and look this one up. I feel like the answer is 1.8 billion chicken wings are consumed during the Super Bowl. As a rough estimate. Go ahead and see how good my memory is on the stats that we were looking up as we went through this. And then, of course, Jeff, you mentioned while you're looking this up, that's yours. All of those exist at your Super Bowl party.
Usually, yeah.
Jeremy, you have to be having snacks at your house.
Oh, for sure.
What do you guys go to?
Well, wings is up there. We usually have some type of queso dip with chips and, some type of cheese and crackers and smoked sausage or something.
Yeah, it's always grazable food.
Exactly.
Right.
It's just you fill the plate with a bunch of different things.
All right. Was I close?
It says 1.45 billion chicken wings.
All right.
4 wings for every person in the U.S. Nearly 100 million pounds of wings. Enough wings to circle the earth 3 times. All right. What do you think the most popular dipping sauce is?
I would guess ranch, but blue cheese should be up there as well.
It's ranch and then blue cheese is second.
Yeah, I mean, it's just standard chicken wing stuff.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing buffalo wings, you're not dipping them in buffalo sauce.
Right.
Because that to me would probably be used more on the chicken wings across the board, but as a dipping sauce, it's got to be ranch.
Yeah.
Because it's readily available.
Yeah.
What's your go-to, ranch or blue cheese?
Mine is going to be ranch for my personal choice, but I'm not mad about blue cheese. I know there's some people out there who really dislike blue cheese as a cheese. Yeah. A little too funky. For me, Super Bowl snack food is based on themes. Because when we host an event for something like this, we take a look, we come up with a theme. Last year for the Super Bowl, we actually had a rib cook-off.
Ooh.
So we had everybody doing different ribs and brought them in, had a bit of a competition.
Nice.
And I won thanks to a friend's bourbon barbecue sauce that they had gifted me a year before. Ridiculously good, just turned out fantastic. So I can only take a partial credit for the win. This year, because it's in New Orleans, we're doing a Mardi Gras theme. So I will probably be creating some Cajun-style dips for this year's.
Nice.
Though previously I've also done potato skins as a themed thing with some different toppings on them. And I was a little shocked to see potato skins didn't make it on here. I think it's probably because they require too much effort compared to the other options.
Right. I don't think I've ever had potato skins at a Super Bowl party.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
You have to make some and bring them in.
I agree with you. The prep time. I think a lot of people like I pick something up, I open a bag of chips, I dip it in an existing dip versus having to put in all the work.
I had a random thought. Do you guys think the tickets cost more the closer you get to the Mahomes Kelsey box or Taylor Swift?
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
That is an interesting question. I'm not sure. My guess is that they're probably more and more expensive based on their location in proximity to, say, the 50-yard line, as most people would assume. But that,
right?
I bet that
I'm guessing that's a secondary market type of a scenario.
Yeah.
That does take me to another set of questions. We can jump straight down to tickets and viewing. Average ticket price for the 2025 Super Bowl, which I believe is Super Bowl 59. I'm going to start calling it Super Bowl 59, which is its official title.
Yep.
Yeah.
What do you guys believe the average ticket cost was to the Super Bowl? $3,500, $5,300, $7,900, or $10,000?
Are we going? You're saying this year or last year?
This year. The average price to the Super Bowl.
I'm gonna go with $7,900.
I'm going 10K.
10K, $7,900 is the actual answer, but ticket prices did, because that's your average, easily exceed the 5-digit. Because if I recall correctly, the cheapest ticket available was $5,900.
Yeah.
So anybody thinking that $3,500 or $5,300 was the answer, no, cheapest ticket was $5,300. Average was $79.
Yeah, my buddy went a couple years ago, and I think he paid like almost $6,000.
Yep.
Or something like that.
The most expensive premium seat, guesstimates.
Cool. Guesstimates.
It exceeds 5 figures?
It is. I will give you, it is in the 5 figures. We don't go over $100,000 for a seat at the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Does this include the box seats?
All I've got
suites?
is most expensive premium seats.
I'm going to say somewhere in like the 50K range.
Yeah, I would go with 60,000.
Between the two of you, we average that out. You're just a little bit over $54,000 for the most expensive premium seat at the Super Bowl. That is a lot more expensive than hosting your own SuperWl party.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say that the most premium seat is on my couch in front of my TV with my grazable foods.
Right. That's the hard part when you look at all this. I mean, you even talked about what's the average. Okay, go down to the cheapest, the $5,900. That's just the ticket. Not to mention, you want to get anywhere near the venue, you're talking for a couple nights stay. I mean, that's going to be another couple $1,000s. The per night stay of these hotels.
For one person to go, you're spending at least probably $12,000-$15,000.
Oh, yeah.
You're above $10,000 easy.
Yeah.
No, and this kind of brings me to a topic that I wasn't necessarily going to bring up, but I think is an interesting one based on that point. We all know what happened around New Year's down in the New Orleans area. Not a great situation with what happened there, but it did cause one of the college football bowl games in the college football playoff to be delayed by a day. If that were to happen with, say, the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl got delayed for a day, how are people going to handle that? Because that expense, people going down there.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, like, that had to have happened with a lot of the people that were at that particular bowl game. Statistically wise, I do have some interesting points on the difference, which kind of helps to push what a major event the Super Bowl is. The difference in viewership between the college football playoff, now that they've gone to a 12-team playoff, and the Super Bowl itself. You guys might know this off the top of your head. What was the interesting thing that happened viewership-wise at Super Bowl 58?
Interesting thing that happened.
Viewership-wise.
Like, it was just lower than years past.
Well, you mentioned it previously. 123.7 million people was the average viewership of the Super Bowl last year. That made it the most watched program in U.S. television history. Given that, it is pretty much impossible for the college football playoff to match those numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
However, the college football playoff, when it went to a 12 team, actually had a decline in viewership.
Yeah.
More rounds, more games, more teams, probably a little bit of college football fatigue or lack of caring from certain fan bases at that point in time. The first round of college football playoff averaged about 10.6 million viewers across multiple networks. Quarterfinals averaged 16.9 million, semifinals 19.2, and because it's the semifinals was literally the first round that could have happened previously because it was only a 4-team playoff, that was down 17% from the previous year, and the national championship game garnered only 22.1 million viewers, dropping by 3 million from the previous year's viewership. Yeah, compare that to the Super Bowl being the number one viewed television program in U.S. history. Apparently, there's a lot more NFL fans than there are college football fans.
Yeah.
Or a bit more strata between the fan bases.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, 20% are watching for just the ads. Yeah. So you've got the actual NFL fans, then you've got the commercial fans, and then you have probably the people that are counted as watchers but aren't really watching. You know, I have several friends and family members that don't watch any NFL. They don't even really care what teams are playing, but they want to come hang out with the family and grab some
Super Bowl party's a good time.
You know, chat and hang out. And yeah, they're there considered a viewer, but they're not really into the game. So I can see why it's so much more. It's become this event, you know, a gathering of people.
Now, so the gathering, now we've got people that are watching at home. Those people aren't going to have a major economic impact, at least on the Super Bowl itself, but on their home communities. I've got a listing of about a 20% increase in beer sales across the nation during the week leading up to Super Bowl. So just that one game is leading to an increase in grocery sales and whatnot.
Yeah.
But the city itself, there's oftentimes people talking about how these major events like, say, prepping for the Olympics or World Cup or, say, the Super Bowl, doesn't end up benefiting the city as much as they all think it should. Now, I think that with the situation like the Super Bowl, we're in a slightly different category on these things because the facilities already exist. Oftentimes the issue with, say, hosting the Olympics is that you've got to build an Olympic-sized swimming pool and diving facility, and this small town hosting that event doesn't have that caliber of event coming in regularly enough to justify it.
Well, don't they call it like the Olympic Village? Where like they literally have to build like a little place for everyone to stay and all
And the economic impact when the Olympics leaves is usually a negative impact on the city that hosts it, because to your point, for the Super Bowl, they're going to New Orleans. They're going to play in
the Superdome.
Yeah, exactly. That exists. It gets played in all year. So they're not building extra infrastructure. They don't have to build new roads or a village or stadiums or pools or any of that. Whereas with the Olympics, they do. And they put all this infrastructure in, and there's a spike during Olympics, and then they leave. They have these structures that they can't do anything with.
Yep.
And they're in debt potentially, or it hits them negatively when.
And granted, you managed to generate a lot of jobs for building those things and construction and whatnot. So you've managed to help out the people of the city, but the city now has to maintain this structure.
Right.
So obviously, with our Super Bowl hosting cities, they should be seeing a much bigger impact from all of this economic change of things coming through.
Yeah.
The amount of money that the city itself sees is probably less than the citizens of the city.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you're getting all of your hotels and your lodging, Airbnbs, VRBOs, getting a lot of people coming in to stay for those.
The restaurants are packed, so day in and day out.
This says the host city economy gets a boost of like 300 to 500 million. But the real benefits depend on factors like tourism and local spending.
Yep, and that's going to be a thing. So last year, Las Vegas had a reported economic impact of, I'm going to give you four options, 500 million, 726 million, 1 billion, or $1.5 billion. This is 2024 in Las Vegas.
I mean, my first answer was 726, but
Yeah.
then my brain is going, could it have been $1 billion, because there's so much more of a draw being in a city that has all these other things to do.
As well as
all the
easy as it
gamble-
is to get to Las Vegas.
Exactly. There's flights, there's other sports teams,
They're built around hotels and
Yeah.
keeping people there
So
regularly.
I would imagine many people went for like a full week,
Right.
You know, and
'Cause-
just did a bunch of stuff and went to the Super Bowl.
Exactly. So I guess if I was guessing, I'd go with the $1 billion.
And that would be correct.
Same.
Your 726 million was actually the number from 2023.
Oh, okay.
Down in Arizona, $726 million economic impact for Arizona, which would have been Phoenix, if I recall correctly. Getting that type of a boost there. Again, still, that's not chump change by any means.
Yeah.
Vegas, $1 billion, and I believe the $1.5 billion is an estimate for this year.
I was going to ask if you think it's going to top.
It is expected to increase yet again, and I don't know if that's just the cost of living these days.
Yeah,
or
I was curious about that as a factor.
I would have guessed it would be somewhere in between, 23 and 24, because of the Vegas factor. That I'd be surprised if New Orleans is going to go over $1 billion, but who
Right.
knows? It could.
Yeah.
I mean, it very well could.
All right, I want to flip the script on you, Scott, and ask
Okay.
you a question.
All right, let's see what we got.
How many gallons of beer do you think are consumed during Super Bowl Sunday?
Gallons.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see here.
It's a million number, I'll tell you that.
I was going to say, that's not shocking. If I'm not mistaken, a gallon is, 128 ounces?
Yep.
And so in a gallon, you're looking at approximately 10 to 11 cans of beer. Knowing some
like
of the
the
people
math here.
that I knew in college who watched that's one person. Nowadays, definitely that's a little bit more. This has to be up in the, I'm going to go 3.5 million gallons.
325 million.
Oh my goodness. Off by a factor of 100.
What day takes second place to the Super Bowl?
St. Patrick's
Yeah,
Day.
I was gonna say,
Got to
it's
be
gotta be
St. Patrick's Day.
4th of July.
4th of July.
Yeah.
I guess in the United States that makes a bit
That's
of
so
sense.
many gallons, though.
That is
Yeah.
a lot of beer consumed there. Now I do have some information off the top of my head about who the number one selling beer is during Super Bowl.
I feel like it's not Budweiser.
It is not Budweiser or Bud Light. It is going to be Corona, followed by Michelob Ultra.
Yeah, I guess I could. I just feel like I see a lot of people drinking Michelob Ultra now that like maybe aren't necessarily like beer people.
Yeah.
If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, because it tastes pretty much like water.
Right. Right.
It's also low calorie, and
Right.
if you're gonna be spending your time drinking stuff like that, Miller Lite kind of probably falls into that category
Yeah.
as well, being the lower calorie content. Random weird facts: Miller Lite, I believe, is 96 calories per 12 ounces, whereas a
Yeah.
Coors Light or Bud Light is 120.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Don't ask where I got those numbers from. I just remember them. Other weird factoid: Guinness, the dark, heavy stout from Ireland, also only 120 calories per 12 ounce. You would not think so, given how thick and hearty that is.
Yeah.
But the mass exported version of Guinness is actually very low ABV, and rolls in almost the exact same thing as a Coors Light does. Given that we were talking about Las Vegas being the previous host, everybody knows my Super Bowl party always includes a grid. Everybody knows buying squares, where you're just going to go put your name or your initials into a square. Depending on how you do this, this could be a 0 through 9 on both scales in order. And if you get there sooner rather than later, you can be strategic and pick a 3 and a 7 or whatnot. In mine, we don't do that. We randomize the numbers after the grid is filled, so nobody has a benefit. But all of this is the friendly gambling aspect of the Super Bowl. And in Las Vegas, obviously there was going to be some gambling happening. Do you guys have any idea the amount of money that moves through legal betting channels during the Super Bowl. This is going to include just straight up bets on the game itself, the outcome of the game, as well as prop bets or proposition bets.
It's got to be in the billions.
Yeah. I just don't even know if I could venture a guess at how many billion.
Yeah.
Well, remember,
like 10.
Remember, this is the
10 to 15
this is the legal channels of gambling. So at actual sports books or in Las Vegas, only 1.5 billion.
Really?
Yeah.
That shocks me. I would have thought closer to what you said.
And I believe that the question on that comes down to what counts as legal betting on this versus, say, illegal. I'm going to go ahead and throw out this. My gambling for $1 a square in my house probably falls under the illegal side of gambling because it isn't actually supported by a state or federal situation. So the next number is including the illegal or side betting or other avenues of betting. What is the estimated number of dollars that ran for the numbers that I have are for Super Bowl 58 2024 numbers? 10 billion, 16 billion, 23 billion, or $30 billion.
I'm going 16.
I'll go one up from that. What was it, 20, did you say?
$23.1 billion in both legal and illegal gambling goes through. And that was just on Super Bowl.
That's crazy.
Which is an interesting aspect. Sports obviously have always drawn people in to bet on them as well as then to cheat on betting on them and other random things like that. But I think some of the more entertaining aspects of things, go ahead, Jeff, sneeze.
No, it's just yawning.
Are the proposition bets, because those get wild.
Prop bets, yeah.
Quick question. What is the most popular Super Bowl prop bet?
I don't even know if I know the list of them, but it's, I know there's stuff
Who's
like
MVP?
Mahomes under 1.5 interceptions or whatever is going to be that'll be out there. One like that.
Okay, I'll give you 4 options because that's actually not on it. Nor is the MVP on this list of what I've got here. First touchdown scorer, coin toss outcome, the color of Gatorade dumped on the winning coach, or the halftime show first song.
Ooh. Gosh, those are all good options.
Yeah.
I know, and this is the
That's
fun
tough.
part of how silly proposition bets can be.
This is the number one prop bet?
The number one prop bet. And this is a recurring number one prop bet.
I'm going to go coin toss.
I know the first scorer one's popular.
Yeah, that's in every game of some sort.
But
I've got the top 2 answers in this list.
I feel like it's the top 2 answers are Gatorade and coin toss.
Yep, but in which order? It is correct. It is the coin toss and the Gatorade color.
Ooh.
But in which order? Which one's number 1?
I threw out coin toss.
I'll just go Gatorade then.
Well, you'll be second place then, Jeff, because coin toss is the answer. A very quick, simple 50-50 opportunity.
Yeah.
And like just some of those, like I feel like in recent years, there has to be a prop bet of the over under of how many times Taylor Swift will be shown on the broadcast.
Yeah.
That's got to be in there in some way, shape, or form.
I know that's been turned into a drinking game during the Super Bowl.
Which is just going to add to that 325 million gallons.
That's wild.
Have either of you, and you don't need to go into numbers here, ever placed a bet on the Super Bowl?
No.
No friendly wagers?
No.
I haven't
I
either.
have friends that are betting addicts they're definitely betting, I don't know how much money on random different props and things.
And that is 100% a thing and an issue that's out there in the world. I actually have been seeing recently a commercial for a different, like almost at whim betting. I believe it has Dolph Lundgren in the commercial where he's lifting up a tank full of lobsters, which I don't know why that's a thing, but it is. But it's a lady sitting in this restaurant betting on whether or not this drive will end with a field goal or a touchdown on the next play.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the type of gambling that I don't know if anybody actually needs access to.
Yeah.
If you're out
gosh.
there betting that type of those type of things, and I mean, granted, we've talked about budgeting on this before. If you can budget some fun money into your schedule, and that's what you're gambling with, good. All power to you. Go have fun. Use your money the way that you want to, as long as you're keeping track of everything else. If you're out there like selling everything that you own and betting it on red at the roulette table, maybe call a gambling helpline.
It's when you dump into that emergency savings fund
Yeah.
to start betting.
The 50, 30, 20, but the 30% is just my gambling. That's a problem.
Oh, gosh.
People out there should probably pay attention, and we're having fun talking about these things, but yeah, it could be a legitimate problem for some people out there.
Yeah.
Not at this table though. No. My gambling is mostly stuck to fantasy football and then the random things during my own Super Bowl party amongst friends. Trying to think if I've exceeded $200 yet this year on those things combined, and the answer, since we're only in January, is definitely not. But last year I probably got up in that range.
Yeah.
I know that Jeremy is big into fantasy football, and I know that you are as well. How much does the drop off of fantasy football impact your watching of the playoffs? Because I know fantasy football runs fantasy playoffs through the last couple weeks of the season. Do you find it helps you be more focused on the games themselves when it comes to the actual NFL playoffs, where you're no longer looking at a team being like, I really want this guy to do well, but I need his team to lose, where you're doing these kind of bargaining and bartering things with yourself to be a quality fan?
This year's different for me. I don't know. Giants being terrible. I haven't watched the playoffs nearly as much as I normally do. But fantasy does impact like how much during fantasy season I'm watching a lot of football.
Yeah.
I'm texting Jeremy back and forth about stuff and whatnot. But normally I still watch like every playoff game, but this year I haven't. I think I'm just sour because of how bad the Giants are.
Do you find yourself still rooting for your fantasy team players during the playoffs, even though they're not getting you points anymore?
100%. Yeah, that's why I was pulling
that was my guy.
That's why I was pulling for the Commanders, because I had Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels.
I will admit I was pulling for the Commanders as well, but as a Seahawks fan, because Bobby Wagner was there playing for them.
Yeah.
And I can respect that he went out, got his contract to do his thing, and had a shot at it. And secondarily, because I went to WSU, Frankie Louvu also in that linebacker lineup playing for them. So I had some shoestring ties to the Commanders, and I was really hoping that them, along with Jaden Daniels, were going to make a better showing of it and make that chance. Strange stat that I found out in that game: Jaden Daniels has equaled, I want to say it's about 5 other rookie quarterbacks first season. No rookie quarterback has gone further than that in the NFL playoffs. They have all the ones that made it there lost in that specific same round, including Roethlisberger, which for whatever reason I was misremembering that he won a Super Bowl in his first year, but he did not. I think that was his second year.
Yeah. And Purdy from the 49ers was the most recent rookie to have gone that far and lost in the championship.
Yeah. Another stat that I saw recently for anybody who feels like taking and running with this one this year, the last remaining undefeated team in the NFL since I want to say the chart went back to about 2005 has not won the Super Bowl. And this year, shockingly, that is the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you are one to ride the trend, I think it's a good year to be rooting for the Eagles, but just not Saquon.
No, I still like Saquon.
Okay, so we can root for Saquon still.
I feel bad for Saquon, so I don't want to root for the Eagles.
Yeah, that's fair. That's just such a weird fandom thing.
Yeah, it sucks.
Like, no, yeah, I like this guy, but he went to the rival. So am I allowed to like him anymore? I don't know about that.
I was hoping he would end up like on the Texans or something like that. But.
So before we sign off, predictions for this year's Super Bowl. Who do you think is going to win? By how much? because no good sports related show is finished unless there's a good prediction in here. Jeff, you want to start?
I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think it's going to be like a 27-23.
Okay,
Something
tight game.
Yeah, I don't feel like I've seen the Chiefs put up a huge amount of points this year.
No, it feels like they've been skating by to their undefeated situation. But you believe that they're going to be the next NFL team to go undefeated and win a Super Bowl.
They have a loss, don't they? The Chiefs have a loss.
Oh, do they?
They have one loss.
Well, maybe that chart that I saw earlier was just
loss.
lying
it was
to me.
to,
they did have a loss.
It was who was
it to the Bills in the season? I can't remember who it was to, but I do know they do have, they have a loss.
Is it the Eagles then that I'm
No.
certain that they've got a loss as well.
Yeah,
they've
Eagles
got
have a couple.
Let's see. The Chiefs lost. They have 2 losses.
Oh, well. This chart was just very wrong.
Maybe it was before their loss. They lost to the Bills.
Yep.
And
I think it's just a verbiage thing. I think it was the last remaining undefeated team each season.
Yeah.
So even if everybody went into the playoffs with 2 losses, one of those teams was the last remaining.
That makes sense. Not undefeated for the season.
Yeah.
Who got their first loss last?
Correct.
Yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, last year it was both the 49ers and the Eagles that ended up getting their first loss on the same week.
Yes. Yep.
And both of those did not win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I would say I'm going to agree with Jeff. I think it'll be the Chiefs for a what do they call it? A Chief Pete, a 3-peat. They're third in a row, but I do think it's going to be very close.
Yeah.
I would go 27-24.
Okay.
So within a field goal. Although there's part of me that thinks if they can't stop the run game, which they were having a tough time doing last week, and if Saquon gets going, it could be Eagles, by more than a touchdown.
That's going to be my projection. Is I'm gonna go ahead and predict an Eagles victory, and I'm going to go ahead and throw out 35-21. A solid, because I feel like if the Eagles are going to win this, they're going to do it in a relatively dominant fashion.
Yeah,
it's going to be the first handoff to Saquon is just going to go for a touchdown,
60-yarder.
But beyond all that, have fun with the Super Bowl out there. You guys have any final thoughts on all of this for the people to tie in a little financial education for our listeners?
I got one. Never break the bank for one weekend.
Yeah.
Well, have fun, but watch your spending and enjoy the game.
I would agree. This is a very big expenditure, and I know there's probably a couple hundred people out there that are just like, well, this might be my only chance to go. I'm going to spend whatever it takes to get in here and watch this game.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, if you're going to if your team's in the game, it'd be hard not to want to go.
Not to want to, but how far are you willing to go? Like, I'm going to get a second mortgage just to be able to pay for my hotel room. I feel like that's not financially responsible.
Yeah.
But if you can afford it, I would 100% say go do the thing. Once in a lifetime type of an opportunity, unless you're a Chiefs fan, in which case it's like a 3 times in 3 years type of an opportunity.
You know what I'm going to recommend is create a savings bucket.
There you go.
For when your team's there. Right?
Yeah.
Like start now.
Yeah.
For me, I've got a while, I've got 10 or 12 years to save up in my savings bucket. So I should be good.
Good to go. Like if you start that now and you set aside, say, $20 a month into this, like you'll have that paid for in no time.
That'd be my tip.
My last comment would be going back to the sports betting. If you are finding yourself spending way too much or betting on the outcome of every moment in the game and you haven't budgeted for this, find yourself a gambling helpline. Give a quick call to that, because that's a problem that is going to lead you down a very dark path in a very quick way. Beyond all that, enjoy Super Bowl weekend. Cheer on whichever team you want. I just hope both teams have fun. And that we get a good halftime show this year.
We just need a competitive game.
Yeah, there we
Give
go.
us that.
All right. Well, for all of you out there watching, this has been Dollars and Cents, HAPO Community Credit Union's Financial Literacy Podcast. Until next time.